Buckle up. We're going to cover a ton of ground on today's Give First podcast. We have Marc Steren, who is the founder and CEO of University Startups, a Techstars portfolio company. We're going to focus in on how important it is for companies to be mission focused. We're going to talk about being experimental with startups, and we're going to hear from a really experienced entrepreneur, Marc, and an educator about the future of entrepreneurship, the future of education, and social entrepreneurship. Lots coming up right now on the Give First podcast. Hi, everyone. This is David Cohen, and I'm here with my amazing co-host,
Brad Feld.
Hey, Brad. And this is the Give First podcast. And in the startup world, Give First means simply trying to help anyone, especially entrepreneurs, without any expectation of getting anything back. So we'll be talking to mentors and founders about what Give First looks like in action and how it makes great entrepreneurship possible. We polled everyone, and they said consistently that their favorite part of the show was the legal mumbo jumbo. So here it is. The following discussion is an expression of personal opinion and does not represent the opinion of Techstars or any company we discuss. Our conversations for informational purposes only, including any mention of securities or funds. This is not legal, business, investment, or tax advice and is not intended for use by any investor. Certain of Techstars funds own or may own in the future securities in some of the companies discussed in this podcast. Got it? Marc, welcome to the Give First podcast. Excited to chat today. So let's get a little bit of background on you, and then we'll jump into your company, University Startups. So tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to creating that company in the first place.
Gosh, been in entrepreneurship about 30 years. Was one of the founders of the first company to create mobile ticketing, had celebrity investors. I sold my last company in 2012. And to be honest, David, I thought I was done. I went into education. I was a professor at Georgetown. And during COVID, 2020, one of my colleagues, awesome entrepreneur, John Jabbar, who's Maryland Social Impact Entrepreneur of the Year, said, "Hey, Marc, why don't we teach high school kids how to launch a venture, but for social good?" And to be honest, David, I was done. I told my wife, "We're just having fun. Don't stress it. It's not another startup." And we got about 20 kids we thought initially would sign up. We had 67 kids from California to Florida sign up doing this class, just a week class. And again, I kind of put it to a side. And then about 6 months later, I started getting an email saying, "Hey, professor, want to let you know we took that experience, wrote about it, and now I'm going to Dartmouth," like all these great schools. And again, it was, okay, wow, that's cool. I'm excited for you, not interested in starting a company. But then in 21, I got a call from a foundation saying, "Hey, Marc, heard what you're doing, but what about the kids we work with, the under-resourced kid?" And oh my gosh, David, it was like an awakening. We are not doing enough to democratize this opportunity for kids to have pathways to college or careers. So that's kind of how we were born.
Yeah, and I speak in a bunch of middle schools about entrepreneurship in general, and it really strikes me how in the U.S., at least, our educational system, really in general, does not expose kids to entrepreneurship very early or at all in some cases. So, have you experienced that too? It's just like you're talking to kids in the university. It's the first time they're really hearing about entrepreneurship and understanding what it is, that it's a life choice.
What's super cool is the power behind it. It's really empowering to them. So quick little story. I got a call about 6 months ago from a former student who I had years ago back in high school. I was teaching a class in high school. Said, "Hey, want to let you know I'm in Ghana." I said, "That's cool. What are you doing in Ghana?" He's like, "Well, I'm taking your curriculum and I'm teaching people in Ghana entrepreneurship." He's like, "I want to give back based on what you taught me." And then that's just like, it teaches empathy, it teaches kindness, it teaches, the ability to listen to others. But the coolest thing, it teaches you to be empowered, right? These are problems, these are opportunities to be solved, and you have the methodology and skills to do it. And so that's what I love about entrepreneurship.
Before we dive into university startups, you mentioned earlier celebrity investors. I got to ask because I know people who are listening want to know, who were these people?
So some pretty cool folks. We had like Steven Spielberg. Actually, his sister Sue came to work for me. Had Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Harris Barton, who played for the 49ers. Some really cool folks. And actually, Steven's agent, Jerry Breslauer, was on my board, and he was one of the smartest, kindest guys, if you could harken back to your younger days, not that you don't look fantastic now, but you harken back to your younger days when you just had no clue what you were doing. And imagine you have someone like Jerry who can really just teach you so much. And it was just, man, it was gold.
Well, I hope you did well by those people. I've heard of them, and yeah, you don't wanna have them on the wrong side, right? So awesome. So university startups, I know you talked about it a bit. It's a very sort of mission focused company. At a high level, what is that mission, and how are you driving that mission into the market and into the team that you're building?
Yeah, awesome question. So we are an AI augmented curriculum that empowers under-resourced students, and we use virtual generative AI counselors. It's really cool what we do, but we provide them personalized pathways to either higher education or career success, and focus in on under-resourced members of the community, those that whose mom and dad can't spend $5,000 on a college coach or all these skills they need to take them to the next level. So that mission has enabled us to retain amazing talent. Our chief technology officer invented the scraping software to identify ISIS and other terrorist groups off Twitter, has worked with presidential administrations, the ADL, the Vatican. My chief strategy officer, was a professor at Howard University and Georgetown University, pivot program that helps returning citizens back into the community through entrepreneurship. You can't retain this type of talent and these amazing folks unless they think about their mission matches what they do so well. And so that's our biggest selling point for obtaining these amazing folks to work with us. It's not so much they believe in me or the other co-founders, that they believe in what we're doing.
Well, they probably don't not believe in you. They have to at least believe in you too.
At
But yeah,
least at
I
the
mean, look,
time.
the mission. I mean, I experienced that at Techstars, right? I mean, we're here to help entrepreneurs succeed and do that at an unprecedented scale, and that attracts amazing people, right? That you encountered during your Techstars
Yeah.
experience, right? And they might be doing other things, but they love the mission and the purpose of the company. So I know you've taught a lot of entrepreneurship as well. Is that something that you normally try to harp on with people that are building companies?
Yeah, and every mission's different, and every purpose of a company is different. So just because you don't have our mission doesn't mean it's not a valuable endeavor. It's what's that core principle and why do you exist? For us, we exist to empower under-resourced students with a personalized pathway to higher education and career success. That's what we do. But for others, if they create the latest, cover for an iPhone and they believe in that, then that's awesome, but there's gotta be the fallback as to why the company exists, right? Why are you here? Why getting up and doing all these crazy hours if you don't believe in the purpose of the company? So, but every company's purpose is unique.
Yeah, I feel like Simon Sinek talked about that in a really great way. People don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it, and I think that's very, very true. Even customers, partners we've had, right? They're not buying a product, a fund. They're buying the mission, the purpose of helping entrepreneurs be successful, right? And in your case, it's clearly working. Tell us a little bit about how University Startups is growing, how it's impacting the market today.
Yeah. So, a couple things that you just said that really resonated with us. One is our early adopters believe what we believe, and Cynic says that all the time. They believe in our mission because, quite candidly, let's be honest, there are 100 companies like ours and others. It's fungible, but if they believe in us and we align with their values, man, the sales cycle is so much easier. We're now in 7 states, expanding from Texas to New York City, partner with the Urban League and in Arkansas. It's just the growth is pretty amazing. It's pretty exciting. But let me give you an example, like how it works. We had this wonderful student. She was in Washington D.C. and didn't come from the best background, and so she came into the program and she learned she had skills and passion for social justice. Our software was able to identify internships for her that matched her. She was able to build a resume to avoid the applicant tracking system, learn how to interview, learn about setting up her socials. She got that internship, got paid. She's like, wow, this is pretty cool. I can be amazing, just reach my potential. It's like maybe I can go to college. Went into the college counseling program. Again, learn about FASA, learn how to build a great college essay on that experience. and found the perfect university for her. Happens to be an HBCU here in Washington, D.C., but it's a fit. It's empowering to know that you can be so special and achieve something amazing. So that's what we're really excited about.
And I find that mission driven companies and purpose, it always generates stories, right, that match that, and that inspires people, and it's just a flywheel that's amazing. You and I are talking. I see you on video. Most people are listening on audio, but I see behind you, I don't know, 300 sticky notes on the wall. I know you really are a big believer in running experiments in your company. I imagine some of those cards on the wall are different experiments you're running and things you're trying. Talk a little bit about that mindset of entrepreneurship, of really trying lots of different things.
Yeah. So a lot of people talk about like the build, measure, learn, and running experiments and customer discovery, and then they forget about it and don't enact it as an entrepreneur. They love their solution, hold it tight, and they're going to sell that solution no matter what. We've kind of taken a reverse approach. Actually, Tremaine Davis, my chief strategy officer, says this all the time. What we do is we learn through interviews based on that feedback. Then we'll run prototypes, experiments, get feedback, and keep making it better and better and better. So we are running. I mean, we have an experiment board here that I don't want to show of like 5 or 6 different solutions based on feedback that we can run experiments with prototypes with thousands of kids. And then we can say, yes, that's it. And then really, really scale. Some startups and some founders, they go for scale first without solving a very specific problem in a unique way, right? That we can build barriers around that is ours and we can own the niche. So we're focusing on owning the niche, solving a problem where our solution is a must have, like they gotta have it, and then we can scale. And David, this it's a struggle every day to find that. But man, we're like at the 1 yard line. Um, just we're pretty excited. We think we're going to explode over the next 6 months.
Amazing. So the offensive 1 yard line, not the defensive.
Exactly.
In that analogy.
And,
Awesome.
and we've been on the defensive 1 yard line, so I know that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I've run into entrepreneurs that say, look, everything I spend time on, I need to make sure that it works and it's impactful and it's the right thing. I always look at them, I'm like, no, actually, you need to have a lot of disasters and a lot of failure, just small ones, right? You
Yeah.
don't want macro failure, but you want lots of small failures because that's where the learning is. And they tell me, no, we're just doing this one thing and we're sure it's right. And I say, yeah, that's tunnel vision, right? A startup is seeking what's right based on lots of
Mhm.
ideas, not you don't know up front. And so I think experiments, yeah, that's highly correlated to me with entrepreneurs who end up finding success.
That's so cool. And we pair that with like leadership within our organization. So I really found that startups have, like go through 3 phases of leadership. One is like the founders. We say, this is what's going to happen. And then the second phase is employees start, almost parroting what we think before we even say it. And then third is when they tell us what's exciting and new, and then we develop based on their feedback and what they're hearing from customers. I had over the weekend, my CSO, my chief strategy officer, said, hey, we should think about this disruptive pricing. On Monday, we whiteboarded, looked at the numbers with our CTO on Monday, and Tuesday we're off and running. It was all him. I mean, he's the one, that inspired this change, the disruptive pricing model. We're running experiments, gauging it, but man, it's just like that part of it. It's makes our job easier as founders, that's for sure. But like, man, it's so exciting to know that they're thinking about university startups all the time. I mean, all the time. They're living it as if they've been here since 3 years ago, and he's been here a couple of years, so it doesn't really fit there too. But they love it.
Yeah, and it creates ownership because anybody on the team feels like they can suggest an idea and the company will
Yeah.
try it and experiment with it. Amazing. I want to switch gears a little bit. I think that teaching is one of the ultimate expressions of give first. You've had a career in entrepreneurship, but also in teaching and being involved with that and some great schools. What have you learned from students, right, that are sort of thinking about it differently over the years? Have you not just taught them things, but learned things from them also?
All the time. I mean, they're awesome. I mean, I have one student team they're $1 billion company, which is pretty cool. They were in my incubator at Georgetown, and they just rock. They have like J Lo and Aaron Rodgers investors. It's really cool, and Um, I learned from them that you can learn anything, that experience is great, that I think experience is super important, but they were first time entrepreneurs and they just hit the grind like no other entrepreneur I've seen and seen since, to be honest. It's paid up dividends. They had a coffee drink and they went to Whole Foods. Their mission was to make sure that that particular Whole Foods, they were the number one coffee and they were there every day grinding. Then the next Whole Foods and the next Whole Foods. And next thing you know it, they're doing 125 million,
Like literally grinding,
grinding. Yeah,
not
exactly.
just
Grinding the
grinding on their
beans.
business, grinding the
Yeah.
actual coffee. Yeah, amazing.
That's cool. And I will say, having that chip on the shoulder, like you can tell entrepreneurship, I believe the mindset can be taught. I believe that being open-minded, learning empathy, um, I have a debate with other professors, is it innate? Is it a unique quality? I don't believe it is. I believe that anyone, if you're desperate enough, can become an entrepreneur. I believe circumstances can make that, and you just have to grind. Some of those founders say, "Hey, I'm one of the chosen few that have this ability," and I don't think that is. I think work is the number one thing, and then being smart is second. And sometimes people confuse the two, sometimes people conflate the two, but work is the number one attribute I look for hires, I look for other founders, I look for in students. And so that really taught me a lot.
It's interesting you say that because people are often, in the context of hiring employees, they say, "What do I look for?" And you mentioned experience earlier, and that's on the list somewhere, but it's not at the top of my list. You call it work. I call it motivation, right? Like
Mm.
it's someone who really wants to do this thing, and they're going to work, obviously, but they're motivated by the opportunity. And I find those people are the most successful, regardless of their experience. And certainly experience helps, but I think a lot of great candidates for founders or for hires are overlooked because they don't have the right experience. And so I always tell people, yeah, man, it's much more important that they're motivated to do it, right, and that they're smart and they're going to go and work, like you said.
I love that. I think motivated is a better word. We were interviewing for an SDR in Texas, and we had one who was a salesperson, had a ton of experience. Another was a teacher. And we just loved everything about the teacher. She like would call me early in the morning and then text me late at night. And our team's like, this is the person we want. We can teach her sales, but she has great empathy, understands what a teacher went through. But man, she's a hustler. And we just love that attributes about her.
So, in terms of education and your sort of experience with it, I'm a huge fan of. I don't know if you've ever been up to Waterloo University or
No.
understand what they do, but that's very experiential, right? They don't just teach entrepreneurship; they let you live it, right? Like you
Mm.
walk through their campus, there's startups everywhere. I feel like experiential. It's almost like what TechStars does, right? Like part of being in the program is just learn, and it's an apprentice model almost from being around people. Where do you think education's heading from your perspective, particularly as it sort of relates to producing entrepreneurs? Is there a lot of change afoot?
It's going to be completely disrupted in the next 5 years, not just AI. It's what is the need for higher education? I've had this debate with a prominent attorney. I'm like, why do you have to go to law school? Why can't you just work in a law firm for 2 years, be an apprentice, learn about law, and go from there? These are the things, but nothing beats doing it. It's just the way it is. You can look at a P&L all day, but until it's you, the founder, looking at that P&L and you have to support it, it's just not the same. So I think more experiential, more apprenticeships, more internships, more gaining that knowledge through experience, I think is going to be it. But I do think there's something to be said about learning skills like mathematics, science, the history of the country, history of the world, that is missed. And I do think that's needed. I'm not quite sure where that stays. Uh, Professionalism, networking, all these soft skills that we teach. I think companies like us, there is a value, but I do think there's value in improving our mathematical standards and treating science, especially in neighborhoods that we work, where you go to a school and there's 5 police officers on the premises. There's a metal detector. There's a parole officer on the campus. Like, let's give these kids a chance to be successful, the same kind of education they would get if they're in a suburb, as opposed to downtown. I mean, let's democratize that opportunity. And that, I think, is where it starts. Like the fundamentals of English, mathematics, science, and then teaching them how to learn. People like you never stop learning, right? That's why you start a podcast to interview and learn from others. How can we make learning fun and engaging where you never want to stop reading? That to me is so important.
Don't give away all my secrets. You're telling people why I podcast. And it's also why I used to blog, and you're just
Yeah.
constantly learning from people that are deep in certain areas. It's fascinating. But
That-
part of the school thing too, I think that we do, other than just the basic skills like math and science that you talked about, there's also a social context, right? In a
Mhm,
university, like you have this network that you build there, and I think you can see through Techstars, okay, someone could build a network that way around the thing
mhm.
they care about. So it feels like there's a point in time where you're going to really decide what you want to do, and the sort of experiential apprenticeship model should kick in for education at that point. I feel like.
I feel yes, and they need the skills to be able to iterate themselves, right? So reimagine themselves. So there, it's very cool that a lot of CTE programs have these vocational skills like mechanics and all these things that are necessary. But what happens in 5 years when that's automated out through robotics or AI? Can we give them the skills that they can pivot in their own lives to either A, own the mechanic shop, or B, take those skills they learned and do something else? Right? Like I get a little concerned when it's focused, a myopic view is I'm just going to be this, and this is when I'm on my seventh career, right? So I'm the black sheep of the family, keep switching from job to job and company to company. My others are like they're an attorney, they're a doctor, and which is cool. Um, but I just want to make sure they have the mindset to be able to look at opportunities. If they want to change, they can make that change, whether it's forced upon them or they, on their own volition, they decide to change.
Totally makes sense. I want to end on a slightly different topic. We've covered a lot of ground, which is amazing. But I want to end on this topic. Someone could look at university startups, look at what you're doing, and say, "Well, that feels like social impact or social entrepreneurship." Um, do investors look at it that way? And how do you talk about that if you think that is one of the things that you're doing?
Yeah, awesome. So we measure two things, right? Obviously, return on investments and social returns on investments. We think you can do good and make money. It's our core belief, and I don't see a conflict in the two. In fact, that's what drives us and motivates them. I still charge my clients money to do things, but to be honest, so my higher paying clients every once in a while will subsidize a client that just can't afford to pay, and I know they need our service, so I may do them for free, knowing that I get it from somewhere else, almost like a Khan Economy model in some regards. But I have to wake up every day. I have to go to a company that I believe in and excited to go to work, and we're here for them. So yes, we're going to be an awesome company. Yes, we're going to make money. And yes, we're going to help these individuals who need our help, right? For them, it's a must have. Without us, without our place in the world, they wouldn't, they wouldn't do as well. And that to me despairs me. I
Yeah.
want to do good.
I want to underline the thing you said earlier, sort of yes and, right? It's those things are ands together. And I think Mark, we have a very interesting purview on the startup community, and there are 4,300 companies we've funded over 17 years. They've raised 100, I don't know, 1,000 rounds, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Many thousands of rounds, right? I don't know, it's like something like $110 billion raised in the portfolio, and I can tell you when we segment that and we pull sort of impact out as a subset where people would say, "Yep, that looks like it's an impact thing." Those companies do better
Mm.
than the average. It's
I
it's
believe,
it's super interesting data, right? Because especially early on, because they're able to attract angel investors and customers and partners faster than the average
mhm.
startup because of the mission, because of the impact that they have.
If I could add just one quick note, Techstars for me, and you didn't pay me any money to say this, is the
Not yet.
best,
Yeah.
that really like the best entrepreneurship experience I have. We run the largest equity incubator on the East Coast for minority and female entrepreneurs. And there was someone in my program and got into the Techstars in New York City. I said, go to the Techstars in New York City. In fact, um, I make fun of Keith Cammey, who ran my program in DC, and I ran the Georgetown University incubator. I said, yours is 10 times better. I learned so much more. And on Monday, he said, hey, can you speak to my group? I hopped in the car, was there by lunch, and drove 5 hours back to DC to speak to his group because he and Techstars in general has done so much for our company, just the processes, the operational experience, and they believed in us and continue to do so. It is just, that's what school should be, right? Where you learn experientially, have mentors that guide you, that believe in you, that will support you, tell you honestly where you are, and help you build a better you. Um, and so I just love everything about Techstars. And, whether University Startups is $1 billion company or, I'm stuck at the 1 yard line for the next 10 years, it, it's been amazing. Really has. It's very cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for saying checks in the mail, I guess. They say when
Exactly.
someone says that, but thanks for spending time with us. Thanks for telling us about University Startups. Thanks for letting
Sure.
Techstars be a little part of that amazing story. The impact is great. Also a great business. Great to hear the story from you, and thanks for all you do to give back to students in the community and others that are wanting to go further in entrepreneurship.
Thanks a lot for listening to the show today. We'd love to hear your feedback, ideas, or who you'd like to hear next on Give First. And please leave a rating and review, ideally a good one. And reach out anytime to podcasts@techstars.com or on Twitter, I'm @David Cohen. See you next time. Don't forget, give first.